Well, since it turns out that the regular news commentator, the guy you were expecting, got picked up on morals was unexpectedly, what do you call it? He couldn't be here, so they asked me to try and fill in some of the news items that seem to have, for some reason, been selected. Taken as a whole, humanity constitutes a great civilization, but a lousy thinker. And one man put some ornaments on his blank wall, and life liked it so much they decided that everybody should be civilized. There were several news items. I could tell they were going to spread out, but they were connected. At least, if I'm the commentator, I'm going to make them so. All right, here's how it works. That's the way it went. At first, the man is a blank wall, but then after he can speak, a point blank wall. Could I suggest that this is connected again to such things as referring to the two maturities of man, the two awakenings of man, the two civilizings of man. It's like the two educations of man. Everybody, if you can talk, you got educated. Life educated you. Life turned you, for those of weak minds, and I know there are none here, but there could be somebody hiding outside listening through the door, and I don't want them to feel bad. But in essence, you would be no more than a real kind of fancy or weird looking, take your choice, animal on this planet if you could not speak. Speaking is what makes, at least some people, halfway tolerable. I mean, you look around at people, we're getting off the subject. Have you ever noticed, assuming you're fairly sane and artistic, you've never seen an ugly animal? I mean, even a warthog with extra warts. Assuming you got any kind of taste, just trust me. And it's only humans you look at. And you think, God, what's wrong with that person? And they may not even have warts. You just know, well, something's not right. Also, what I was going to point out, if you ever see somebody who is catatonic, someone who has had a lobotomy, how about that? Someone who cannot speak, they are never ugly. You will never have that feeling. You will never go into the hospital. They don't have them much anymore. Sanatoriums where they would do those kind of operations on people rather than waste money on drugs. And, you just snip the little brain stem, and there they are, and you go look at them. And they could be overweight, kind of looking bluish and bloated like a dead body. They've been laying in bed, for 30 years they hadn't moved. And yet, they will not look, if you got that kind of taste, artistic taste, they will not look as bad as many people alive, standing up, talking. And some of them even famous. Some of them world leaders, all dressed up, fancy. As always, it is man's intellect that distinguishes him absolutely from all other creatures. And it is speech is the ultimate manifestation. It is the minimal manifestation, as a matter of fact. It's both. Because if he doesn't speak, you don't know whether the man's got a brain or not. Somebody laying there, they can say yes. Of course, the surgeon may take you aside, not holler yes loud. He'll say, all right, I snipped the cords on that woman like you asked me to. Now where's my $5,000 in cash? You didn't get lost already. Somebody that has had a lobotomy, somebody who's in a coma, someone whose brain waves now measure that the waves running through are somewhere, maybe at a maximum of 1 per second, which is somewhere below a coma. It's the threshold of a coma. The point is, you don't know whether their mind could be working. In fact, if you can get a brain reading, their mind is there. Electricity is getting to the mind. But if they're not talking, a person might as well not be a human, was the point. So back to where we were. Where were we? That there's like two educations, and no matter, long before you and I got here, men have been trying, there's always been this feeling. There's two kinds of things that comes out in religion and mysticism and self-help, is that life produces everybody in some way. Psychologically speaking, most people nowadays, well, religiously, you say that life at its carnal level produced you. as a sinner, as someone who has missed the mark, and et cetera. And then psychological people nowadays will say life itself. The environment has produced us. But the whole point being, it is already in the nervous system of man that you have had some kind of development, that life has turned you out, and here you are 21 years old, let's just say. And here you are, and something is still lacking. If you're sane, you feel that way. It's only the insane who say, no, I'm perfect. Anybody else, they know, well, something's happened. And so all the way from psychology to religion to philosophy is the feeling that there has been, no matter what they call it, that there has been one education of me. There has been one production of me. I have been turned out either by the gods, the fates, or psychologically by the uncontrollable sins of my fathers, the conditions of my childhood, and etc. I've been turned out this way. What I need is an additional development, an unfolding. And so people go off and they meditate, they drink, they try to find some mystical way. They take up philosophy, they take up additional education, they try to get rich, and it's all the same thing. It's the feeling that I should, in some way, either educate myself or find somebody to give me an additional education that has not been heretofore available to me. The kind of news items we've been doing, it was either me or whoever's writing the news, trying to bring it down to a nice, simple, straightforward level that includes it all, and it's like civilized. That life has civilized you once. If you talk, you're civilized in that sense. You could be unsociable. You could be a pain, and a keister to people. But if you talk, you are civilized. A warthog, if he had any consciousness, would be a blank wall. And if he didn't talk, of course, he wouldn't know it was a blank wall. And there's another way, from a different view, from a night or so ago, there's a news item that also was pointing out the difference between areas that are civilized and areas that are not civilized. And it pointed out that in both areas, shit happens, stuff happens, just things happen, but it's only in the former, it's only in the civilized area that anyone makes any note of it. Humans, I wasn't saying shit happens to, I'm aware of the bumper stickers and the t-shirts. That's been a common thing now. People, saying, boy, and all they're saying again is, can't life be unfair? Humans are the only ones that think that life's unfair. What could be more unfair from another you? What if now you were you and you had consciousness and suddenly you were drawn from what you are physically and you were put into the body of a gazelle out on the plains of Africa, and now you are a peace-loving, assuming you still got your consciousness. You're a pacifist, a vegetarian, a New Age thinker. Now you are on the Serengeti Plains, and you look around, and suddenly you see you're surrounded by leopards, lions, cheetahs, all hungry for your young ass to have you for dinner. All right, from that view, you would say, no, wait, that's really unfair because I wouldn't do that to them. I'm going to eat grass. From one view that people do not normally measure, life to other animals. How about ants minding their own business? People walk down the street and step on them. So other creatures, any of them, I just picked out two extremes, all the way from elephants to everybody, because elephants can be subject to a blight, hit the kind of trees they eat. And they look around, they didn't deserve it. And so from that view, if you had human consciousness, your consciousness in animals, you could say, hey, the kind of unfairness I talk about, circa 1993 in the USA of America and the Western world, that's nothing. This is unfair, right? So back to, I was trying to recall a news item from a few days ago, it said shit happens in both places. And I think the news item was trying to get your impression that along the lines that people ordinarily think and even make slogans like that, is stuff happens in life. Life happens in life. And it happens in civilized areas and it happens in non-civilized areas, which what we're pointing out is speaking areas and non-speaking areas. The same stuff happens everywhere. Starvation, unfairness, rains, floods, drought. But it's only in the civilized area that anyone seems to make note of it. A warthog, if he had consciousness, we hadn't changed the subject, it would be a blank wall. the same things happen to a warthog. He lives, he's born, he lives, he gets hungry, he gets hot, he gets cold, and he dies. But along the way, to the best of our knowledge, he never said a mumbling word. For you lovers of Baptist hymns, he never noticed it. He never made any note of it, any comment. That would be a blank wall. Remember where all this started. One man put some ornaments on his blank wall. Would it help now after all this? What if I changed it and said, long ago, far away? Even before anybody even came up with the idea of writing Genesis or the Mahabharata. Bobby. That a man somewhere long ago and far away decided to put some ornaments on his blank wall. Some graffiti. Well, that says ornaments. I shouldn't keep. He decided to put some ornaments on his blank wall. Semicolon. Or dash. Which, a pause. He did it. And life liked it so much, after this guy did it, that life thought, I'll make everybody become civilized. There were several other news items that were tied to this that I don't think they pulled out. That a few news items down after this one was a short one that says words. It was a definition. Words, ornaments. Remember that? Then was the one that says, was a few items even later that said, all right, here's how it works. Connected those two that I've just done. That is, that one guy put some ornaments on his blank wall. Life liked it so much, it decided to make everybody become civilized. Words, ornaments. Third part. Here's how it works. At first, the man is a, quote, blank wall. But then after he can speak, after the ornaments are up, after he's become civilized, he becomes a point blank wall. Now for the first time, here's the justice, is now for the first time a man could turn around and go, I am a blank wall, except now it's too late because he is not. The only way that a man can know that I'm conscious is to say, now I'm conscious. And compared to being non-conscious, compared to being in a coma, compared to be a Dutch elm, to be a warthog, he is conscious. But as soon as he says, I'm conscious, he is not as conscious as he was because now he has turned to one of the ornaments. Yes, I'm conscious. I know I am. You understand that? It's like, finally, all right, how about instead of a blank wall, we hadn't done this in a long time. A man is like a barren seashore. And suddenly, he erects, instead of an ornament on a blank wall, he erects within himself a lighthouse. And the warthog begins to sweep the horizons. The elm tree, the uncivilized man. And life liked it so much, it decided, hey, everybody's going to have to look like the Grand Banks of North Carolina. That life told everybody, get civilized. Life made everybody come up with a searchlight. A searchlight, lighthouse, I'm using now synonymous with blank wall. But as soon as the lighthouse begins to sweep, and a man goes, I'm sweeping. The light stops because he has to look in one spot. He looks at one ornament. So he is more conscious than he was before he put up the lighthouse, but as soon as he says, I am a lighthouse, I'm looking here, he is less than is possible. Because he had to stop and say, yes, I am. Anybody who doubts that, why do you think all the news items of attacking self-defense, protecting yourself, all my continuing jokes about going in bars and saying, I'm going to shoot every dumbass son of a bitch in here. And the kid says, wow, Bill, you can't do that. And he says, why not? And he said, because we are the place. Why is it that people take such umbrage at being attacked? Why is it you can go up to a sane, ordinary person, civilized person, and say, are you conscious? Are you civilized? Are you intelligent? And they go, well, certainly. If you do it with no apparent aggressive intent to start with, they'll say certainly, and then say, no, you're not. And even if they were moving a little bit, all you got to do is go look in the mirror and do it to you. For those of you who are getting good, you don't have to find the mirror right inside your eyes. Once you know how to do it, it's like a reflective pair of shades behind your eyeballs. You don't need a mirror to go look at somebody else. You can see you do it. At any rate, you tell a man, no, you're not. And the man will do what? You go, yes, I am. Who the hell do you think you are? Are you nuts? Are you on drugs? He is then no longer a blank wall. He is a point blank wall, except now he doesn't know it because he has to say, no, I'm not. Well, I knew that many people would like that one cleared up. And there was one that was sort of hanging around the edges. It was another definition, modifiers. A putting off of decorating the wall. There have been many news items that seem to have to do with modifiers, and sometimes the audience here does not seem to find much wherewithal therein. There seems to be many countenances looking like, what? What would be the antithesis of a blank wall? A modified blank wall. What would be the difference in a blank wall and one with ornaments? Well, there you are. If it's no longer a blank wall, you'd have to say, well, that's an ornamented blank wall. That's a modified blank wall. As long as you put conditions on it, it's a stalling tactic. As long as you say, well, I may be dumb, but I'm not real dumb. Well, you're as dumb as the modifier. You're as dumb as your uncertainty. You're as dumb as the space between what you were going to say and the comma after the modifier, after the adjective or the adverb. God help those who do it with adverbs. I don't want to think. It's just a good thing life does not now have hospitals for those who are modified impaired. Because if they did, then they would have to subdivide it. It would, like just the ordinary wards, would be for those who have been injured by continuous use of adjectives. But the IC unit would be where it's been people so inflicted with adverbs. Because it's bad enough to injure yourself, to nail your foot down with what you seem to be, but then to do so with what you seem to be able to do. Okay, if you're in business, which you're in business, it's bad enough, if you're trying to ever think for yourself, it's bad enough to do damage inside your business. You own the place, but just because you own it, you've got to be reasonable. It's bad enough to go inside and do damage to your goods. They're for sale. But when you start doing damage to your services, I knew that'd clear it up. Modifiers, a putting off, a stalling tactic. And it's reasonable from civilization, from last view. It's to keep somebody from being able to stop fast enough. Because modifiers help drag sentences out, for one thing. But if it were not for that, there'd always be the possibility that somebody, or a man could do it to himself, but apparently, to use my example, that somebody could turn to a man and say, you're not a working lighthouse. And he's about to stop to go, yes, I am. And he does it so fast, he almost realizes what happened. Instead of going, yes, I am, you're wrong. If he didn't have modifiers to help, it's like a stopgap. It's like a stalling tactic to have to face up. It's like a man go, you're right. The difference between humor and subatomic physics is that humor makes sense. I bet nobody wants me to work on that one. Here's another one. It was connected to still how people seem to find themselves in a position of being civilized, educated, produced, that everybody seems to be that I am something. And I am not responsible for what I am now. And I do better. I want to do better. I'm taking courses. I'm taking aerobics somewhere. I'm taking a night course. I'm doing something. But here's the same sort of news item. It didn't identify the man specifically. Well, it's Dateline. Is MA Maine or Massachusetts? Anyway, it's it's one of the two. One man, unidentified, sometimes thought of himself as a dumb, limited son of a bitch. But never did he think so much as he did about the train that brought him there. A man can think, I am in a terrible mess. I am despicable, just to be honest with you. I am ashamed of myself. But not as ashamed, nor am I as dumb and despicable as the conditions that made me like this. You're civilized if you do that. Plus, you have not closed up the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week trap door that life has so graciously provided for everyone. Sometimes label religion, drugs, alcohol, 12-step recovery program. Recovery from what? From being alive. Oh. Sorry, I asked. It is the inescapable embrace of civilization to be able, which everybody does, by the way, in case you missed it just because I made it up and said that it was Dateline MA. It's Dateline AW. I mean EW. Everywhere. That one guy thought of himself, just at times, just like an honest man was the insinuation of this. Some guy that at times would go through this unexpected, inexplicable moment of ephemeral lucidity and think, Jesus, am I limited? I mean, we're talking about seriously limited, dumb, provincial, son of a bitch. But not near as much as the train that brought me here. Because anybody can stand there on a platform and it's raining, it's freezing, and now you stand in Bermuda shorts, no umbrella. And everybody's looking at you like, well, everybody knew what the weather is here. We're talking seriously, this is Perth, Russia. This is the outskirts of Oslo. And you think, well, I may be dumb and ignorant, but you should have seen what brought me here. At least anybody thinks that we are involved with some kind of geography lesson impinging upon the Arctic regions. That doesn't sound like religion. That doesn't sound anything familiar. That doesn't sound like psychology. Well, yeah, I'm a mess. But Jesus, I didn't get here by myself. Which, you got to admit, it's unassailable. I don't know why you'd want to assail it, but if an ordinary person tells you, well, yeah, I'm a mess, you just got through giving somebody heck. And the person goes, yeah. And they think, I'm everything you said and I'm worse. But as bad as I am nothing compared to the bus that brought me here, for the conditions that got me here. That is absolutely, it doesn't need a defense. Once a person's done that, they're home free. Because what can you say? That is civilization. It's not Greyhound. It's not Amtrak. It was civilization. There were 3 or 4 tonight about hormones, but they don't seem to make them. One of them pointed out, I guess you noticed like I did, there were several having to do with musician stuff. One of them said that hormones plays the drums in everybody's band, but if you don't pretty soon put the intellect in charge of the vocals and calling the tunes, you're very likely in for what would be the world's longest set. The longest ever experienced or known to man. And there was another one that says the pounding that most men hear is the sound of hormones and not the intellect knocking at their door. And another one that's tied to us talking about words and speech and etc. was this one. Hormones can sure dig their heels in, but it's still thoughts that egg them on. One we didn't get to a couple of nights ago was a news item that just suddenly comes to mind. God, that hurts, when it? Well, it's real suddenly, that it said that one fellow, I think that was date-marked Oklahoma if I remember, but it was one man that said that it wasn't so bad people mistreating you in life and doing wrong, that wasn't so bad. What was really terrible was then having to think about it. Back to tonight. Hormones are the ones that can sure dig their heels in, but it's still thoughts that egg them on. And there was another one tonight, I don't think it's here, that pointed out that although hormones can't think, and I am correct, am I not? Yes, but go ahead. That in the news service, whichever one it is that we're subscribing to now, hormones are used like the physical aspect of man playing that old necessary game of talking about the physical as opposed to what would be the psychic, the intellectual. And that's what hormones are metaphorically representing. That it said that although hormones can't think, they can make you believe they do. Which is why no one asked that in the construct of the neural condo known as human intelligence, where the 13th floor would be, just for the sake of superstition and good luck, they don't mark it, which is right at the top of the brainstem where the limbic system meets the gold of the day. No, that was Bing Crosby. Where it meets the cortex. Now it gets right up to the point of emotion and sensation that the warthog in you, yes you, and you, that the warthog in you gets right up that old brainstem, clawing its way up, getting up the elevator, escalator. Don't worry about how we're running out of time. It's there. If it's not there, you're not alive. Because that you have been overusing those Valium lubed condoms. The warthog will get right up to where the brainstem meets the cortex, meets the upper part of the brain, the cerebral part of your brain, and right there is where it can make this horrendous leap. It makes the Wallendas seem like spastics. And neurology and biology and physiology, for reasons known only to them and Medicare, have yet to find that there is the mother of all synapses, not the little ones that make people think, not the little ones, of course, and other parts of the system that pass along energy. The neurons, as you know, we normally are referring up here as opposed to hormones being down there. The synapse of all synapses that's never been judged as such is where the warthog jumps to the man, where the limbic system leaps right over to thought. Now back to this news items. Hormones can't think. Everybody knows that. But they can make you believe they do. Back to hormones play the drum in everybody's band, and you're in for a long set. Unless you get the intellect running what's going on stage. All you people are not musicians, you know what a set is. You go up, normally you play for 45 minutes, that's a set, and then you take a break. And you play 4 or 5 sets a night. The insinuation, if you don't ever get somebody besides hormones in charge of running your show, forget a 45-minute set. How about a 45-year set? How would that sound? No break, you can't get off. If hormones are running your life, which they're running everybody's life below the warthog level, but if they continue to run the rest of it, and that's all you do, then let's see, how should we attack you in the last 2 minutes? All right, I'll say the worst. I'll just be out with it. You know what you'll be? Civilized and ordinary. I hope you're, well, I hate to be shocking. Well, I hate as much as you do. If hormones run your life, it is the field that there is a battle going on, that life is unfair, people mistreat you, you mistreat yourself, the train has mistreated you. The intellect cannot come up with that. The intellect does not look down at a chessboard and see what the pieces are, look at a mathematical equation and find it to be personally offensive. Does that stop it? Not hardly. Not with ordinary people. Because what you immediately do is think, I bet you I know which son of a bitch came up with that equation. And if you don't, you know it was some human, and that's enough. Did the room suddenly clear out? If you let what seems to be your personal involvement with life be run to a large degree, and of course insinuation be almost entirely by hormones, by that which would run the warthogs, you can be civilized and ordinary, but you're in for, now it may be civilized, and if you're ordinary, of course, you've got no choice, so we don't have to be nice about it, but you're in for the world's longest set. You realize you're going to have to hold off going to the bathroom for like 50 years? You're stuck there. And you'll play whatever the drummer tells you to play. I mean, the drummer can, for 60 years do Wipeout. Well, I wanted to say Feelings, except Feelings ain't got much of a beat. But it can play Wipeout or Tequila for 60 years. And you keep thinking, well, Jesus, I wish it'd do something like maybe play New York, New York, or... there was one more. I guess we could end right here. It said that one possible weapon in a real thinker's arsenal could be this motto that's tied to this. Don't get mad, get indifferent. Don't get mad, get over it.